all accept the recording, that would be great. So that all of those who registered for the event and couldn't make it will be able to get a recording. So I'm going to share my screen. If you give me one moment. I'm going to remove the things you're currently seeing. Hopefully they won't ping in. Just to let you know that, oh, sorry. Just go back. Just to let you know that I've been having a little bit of a technical issue with my computer. So if a grey line appears, just bear with me. I will eliminate it, but you just need to bear with me while that happens. Hopefully it won't happen. So welcome to our talk. My name is Deborah Brunner. I'm the co-founder of the Together Plan, and my colleague Artur Lifshitz will also be speaking. He is based in Minsk, as you can see on his screen. So restoring legacy, reclaiming the Brest-Litovsk Jewish cemetery. First of all, I'm absolutely delighted that you're joining us. And I know that some of you will be joining us for the first time. You probably wouldn't know very much about us, if anything at all. So by the end of this talk, you will certainly get a sense of a little bit more about what we do as an organization, as a UK charity. And you will be able to understand a lot more about the project that we have been working on for many years now, which is what this talk is all about. So I believe that as people are coming into the waiting list, in the waiting room, a grey line is appearing on my screen. We will move forward. Okay, so as I said, my name is Deborah Brunner. I'm based in the UK. Artur Lifshitz is based in Minsk. You'll be hearing from him shortly. We are the co-founders of the Together Plan. The Together Plan was founded in 2013. We're a 10-year-old charity, but Artur and I have been working together for nearly 15 years now. So we've been on a long journey together. So as most of you know, Belarus is located in the geographical center of Europe. It is bordered by Russia, Ukraine, Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia. And we are a charity that we're registered to work in the whole of the former Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, but the focus of our work is in Belarus. We, just to give you an overview of what the charity does, we promote community capacity building through research, exploration, cultural events, and dialogue. We help Jewish communities discover what can be achieved collectively, working alongside community members to develop skills and knowledge while providing the necessary training to build a sustainable future. That is a very sort of smart way of saying that we work with Jewish communities in Belarus and with a view to helping them to find their voice on a journey of revival. At the bottom, you can see three organizations: the Together Plan, Dialogue, and Jewish Tapestry Project. Dialogue is our official partner organization on the ground in Belarus, and Jewish Tapestry Project is our American partner organization. As you can see, branded the same, just different names. So how do we do the work we do? We do it through the creation of a Belarusian Jewish cultural heritage route. We are partnered with an organization, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, the AEPJ, European Jewish Heritage. They are an organization based in Spain who are leading a project which is to build the European route of Jewish heritage, which is one of the cultural routes of the Council of Europe. And we became a member in 2019, working alongside heritage practitioners, historians, and museums to tell the story of the Jews of Europe. And our responsibility is the route in Belarus. We are creating audio tours with members of communities across the country. We have 5 audio tours now. We're working on a 6th at the moment in various different languages. We work on preservation projects, which is the where the Brest-Litovsk Jewish Cemetery project falls under. We do archival research, helping people to find their ancestral records in the Belarus archives. We translate and publish untold stories, books that probably would have never seen the light of day. We have already published 2 books about the Minsk ghetto, and we're currently working on a 3rd book at the moment. We educate about the hidden Jewish history of Belarus. We have a project called Making History Together, which explores the Holocaust and the years before. With no official Holocaust education program in Belarus, that is impacting us here in the UK and beyond, but also in Belarus as well. And we send humanitarian aid and resources to communities in Belarus, not just to the Jewish communities, but to the wider non-Jewish community as well. We're making significant strides in preserving and sharing the rich history of the Belarusian Jewish community. And in so doing, we're not only honoring the past, but we're also laying the foundation for a more connected and resilient future. So this talk is specifically targeted at Brest and the Brest-Litovsk Jewish Cemetery. But in order to get to the cemetery, we want to give you some sense of the history around not just the community, but also how we developed this project, how we came to it, and the journey that it's been on. And we're going to start this journey with pre-war Brest Jewish, the pre-war Brest Jewish community, just to get us into what the community may have looked like or did look like before the war. So here we've got some images that we have been given permission to use by the Menachem Begin Heritage Center Archive in Jerusalem. So here on the left is the gymnasium in Brest, which was a Jewish school. And here on the right in 1930 is the Beitar Zionist group on parade on Lag BaOmer. This was a geography class at a Jewish youth club in Brest. Here we've got the members of the Polei Zion and the Chechalutz in Brest-Litovsk in 1924. This is a group of people, obviously, who were trying to find ways to at least aspire to having a better life elsewhere. In 1881, there were brutal pogroms all throughout the whole of this region. Then followed after the assassination of Tsar Alexander II, and then again more brutal and very bloody pogroms between 1903 and 1906, and then again after the Russian, well, as the Russian Revolution started in 1917, but then after the First World War. And Jews had suffered horrendously across that time period, and these Jewish people were looking to find a better life in the land of Palestine. And here, members of the Polei Zion in Brest in 1930, so a little bit after that last picture. This picture is the Beitar Zionist group. They were a revisionist Zionist group. This was taken behind a building that both Artur and I have been to on several occasions. I'm going to show you a picture of that building in the next slide. These are the revisionist Zionists were militant Zionists. They were wearing uniforms, as you can see here, and they were militant in that they were ready to fight to have a better life. Here you can see a very young Menachem Begin next to Zev Jabotinsky, and this lady here is called Fanya Greinberg, and she was the pharmacist. She was friends with the Begin family, and she was the pharmacist who was working in the building that we're going to see in a minute. And this is standing in the courtyard behind the pharmacy building. So this is that building. It is still a pharmacy today. The building was designed and built by Solomon Greinberg, who was the husband of Fanya Greinberg, and here it is as he designed the building. She was working in the pharmacy. Here you can see it's still a pharmacy. It says Apteka here, which is pharmacy, and it is very well highly regarded building by the local community, who call it the Greinberg Pharmacy, because the Greinberg family went into hiding during the Second World War, during the invasion of the Nazis, and they survived, but they were among the very, very few that survived. The building has inside of it a book that tells the story of the Greinbergs, but on the outside you can't see anything to mark it that it was a Jewish building. Now, last year, we were commissioned to create a collection to show images of buildings around Belarus that where Jewish life once existed. There are very, very few buildings around the country or Jewish heritage sites that are marked. There are some, but it's rare. And this is part of the work that we're doing with the Belarus route. And Europeana is an online portal, you can look it up, funded by the European Union, and we were commissioned to create a Belarus collection. So I've just I've added some of the images that we took with some of the information to give you a sense of, again, Jewish Brest. So here in the 1920s, this building was the house of Jewish construction entrepreneur Moses Jaglom. The building housed the Jewish Health Society and the gym of the Tarbut Jewish Gymnasium, Jewish school. And we know from the Brest-Litovsk Encyclopedia of the Jewish Diaspora that in 1924, the Hebrew high school Tarbut was established in Brest. The Tarbut High School had a library with over 1,000 books, almost all in Hebrew. In its reading room were Hebrew and Yiddish periodicals, and next to the library, there were evening courses and lectures. The Tarbut High School had a student council that occasionally put out their own newspaper called Zohar. So there are, what we're trying to do is give you some sense of the extent of the Jewish life in Brest. Here is another building that Artur and I were in Brest about 5 years ago. This building was under a tarpaulin and scaffolding. It was being restored. They were taking off the plasterwork and replastering, and they discovered, when they took off the old plaster, this inscription here, which showed that it was a Jewish building. The local Jewish community in Brest approached the building owners and said, would you please not cover it up with new plaster? And the owners agreed. So this is now a Jewish heritage site. As you can see, through our research, we discovered that the house of what was the Jewish entrepreneur Menya Rachel Zayantz in the 1920s, the building housed Abraham Zuckerman's building materials warehouse. And as you can see, the building retained the advertising inscriptions in Yiddish, highlighting the Jewish character of the town in the interwar period. It's also here in Polish as well. And for those of you who can read Yiddish, this says cement. And here, again, another Jewish building, not that anybody would know that it was a Jewish building, the house of Chaim Greenstein, who was of Jewish origin. The building housed the Brest branch of the Central Jewish Emigration in Poland, which operated from 1924 to 1939. In the interwar period, emigration from the city became widespread. There was, for those of you who may not know, Brest used to be Poland, and it then became part of Belarus, as I will talk about that in a little while. But when this was Poland before 1939, there was there was a lot of anti-Semitism, and so a lot of people were trying to leave. And as I said, there were pogroms all the way up to in 1881, 1903 to 1906, then again 1920-21, and people were looking to get away. So this building would have been an extremely busy building. This was the Brest Choral Synagogue as it once looked, and this is what it looks like today. It is today a cinema. You can see the original walls of the synagogue here, and if you go into the cinema and walk around inside, you can still see the arches of what was the original building, which is this is a photograph I took several years ago. The building only recently became marked thanks to the tireless work of the local rabbi in Brest, who managed to get this plaque put onto the synagogue, onto the cinema building. So it is one of the rare buildings that is now marked as a Jewish heritage site in Brest. And the Hekdesh synagogue, which used to look like this, very beautiful building as it once was. So it was built in 1886, so just after the assassination of Tsar Alexander II in 1881. This building was built, and it was confiscated by the Nazis together with the neighboring Jewish hospital, and was used to house wounded soldiers. When the Soviets reclaimed the city, it became a nightclub. Over the decades, it passed from hand to hand, eventually being owned by a private individual and was used as an office space. The iconic facade and the inside architecture was destroyed by the various occupiers, but the original building remained, and we're going to come back to this building in a while. In 1923, the Jews made up 60% of Brest's population of 60,000. During the interwar years, Brest was a part of Poland. In 1939, Brest became part of the Soviet Union when Hitler and Stalin divided Poland. In June 1941, the German army invaded the Soviet Union and Brest fell to German occupation. And between October the 15th and 17th, 1942, the Nazis and their sympathizers shot over 50,000 Jews from Brest and the surrounding district into 11 pits at Brannaya Gora, ending the 600-year-old community. So this brings us to the Brest-Litovsk Cemetery, which was established in 1835. So here you can see pictures. Some of you may have seen these pictures as they are available on the internet. This is the cemetery in October 1915. And here another image. And here is an image provided to me by Jenny Bush in Australia. This is the grave of Avraham Lezer Shelitsky, a relative of hers. And she said, my grandfather's brother, Avraham Lezer Shelitsky, is buried at the cemetery. He died in 1935, so just before the Second World War. My grandmother was a Gewürzmann, and there are lots of them in that cemetery. And this is a colorized image of the cemetery as it once looked. And this is how it looks today. So it is a sports ground. It has a running track. Here on the right of this image, you can see they have hardcored over one part of it to be a car park. There's a building here, and there is a fence that goes all the way around the sports stadium. You'll see a bit more of that here. So here you can see this fence that goes all the way around. And this is an image that I took in 2016. It's not the nicest looking running track, and that's how it looks. There are still people buried there. It is still a cemetery, but it is not marked. Nobody knows that it's a cemetery, apart from very few people or the older generation. So how did the cemetery disappear? Let's go back to the Second World War, 1939. So the German-Soviet military parade in Brest-Litovsk, September 22nd, 1939. So this is where Brest, Poland, falls under Soviet control. As I said, Hitler and Stalin when they were allies, they carved Poland, and the eastern part of Poland became part of the Belarus region of the Soviet Union. And here you can see the parade where Nazis and Soviets paraded together in Brest-Litovsk. And then Hitler broke his alliance with Stalin and invaded the Soviet Union in Operation Barbarossa on June the 22nd, 1941. Now, this is important that we recognize this because it's all part and parcel of the destruction of the cemetery. Here you can see the Wehrmacht, the German army, near Pruzhany in the Brest region in June 1941 as they made their way, the invasion, into the Soviet Union, crossing across Belarus. And the entry point of the German army was Brest-Litovsk. Now, we have discovered through our research and our networking and the work that we've been doing a lot of information from local people in Brest. And one man in particular is Vladimir Gabenko, whose book is a huge source of information. He sadly died last year, and his grandson has been working with us to build our Holocaust education program. So through this connection, we found an awful lot out. This book is eyewitness testimony and images of people's memories of what they witnessed during the between the 1930s and the 1960s. And so we've been able to glean a lot of information through this book and through Vladimir. So we can see here that the Cossacks serving the Germans were robbing Jewish graves. So this is part of the destruction of the cemetery. We found out that the Germans were clearing the cemetery to install sound detectors, as you can see here. Now, let's go back. The Felix Warburg colony was created by the chairman of the American Joint Distribution Committee in the early 1920s. After the First World War and the pogroms, the Jewish community was in a terrible, terrible state in Brest. There were many, many orphans. There were people hauled up in the synagogue. They were homeless. The poverty was horrendous. And Felix Warburg came and he witnessed this. And the American Joint Distribution Committee built a new part of Brest. And this is what it looked like. And you can see here, it says Kolonia Felix Warburger. And it remained until the war, as you will see. Well, it actually remained beyond the war. You're going to see some images in a minute. Now, we know that when the Germans invaded through Brest, they turned the colony, they killed the Jews, and they turned the Felix Warburg colony into a prisoner of war camp. And here you can see Vladimir's image here of one of the houses. So they put the Soviet soldiers into this prisoner of war camp where they were appallingly treated and starved. And then when the Soviets reclaimed Brest, they came back and reclaimed Brest, they turned it into a prisoner of war camp where they kept the German prisoners. But by this time, the sanitation around the colony was so terrible that they needed to do something. And so they ordered the German prisoners to go to the Jewish cemetery and remove the headstones and use them as paving, as you can see here, as is confirmed by Vladimir's picture. Now, this, as you saw before, is one of the houses, and this is Vladimir's image. And this was us at what was the remnants of the colony houses in 2016, at the very last of them as they were being demolished. And all around this area, we found headstones. So some of those headstones that had been used in the paving were discovered by us at the demolition site. So we collected them and we kept them as part of the project. And you'll see where the others were in a moment. And according to the City Register of Brest, formerly Brisk, as of October the 15th, 1942, there were 16,934 Jews residing in the city. Many of them had already been killed. We don't have the exact number, but we've had various numbers from between 20 and 30,000 Jews were living in Brest-Litovsk before the war. So at this point, by October the 15th in 1942, 16,934 Jews residing in the city, but the next day that figure was scratched out. As you can see here, so this is a very rare document. And so we can see that this was where the community was removed and taken to Brno-Gora and shot. What happened to the matzevot, and when did the Together Plan become involved? So the first photograph I ever saw of the headstones, or one of the headstones, was this one. Artur was in Brest, and he visited this site and took this photograph. And I couldn't quite work it out. It was such a I couldn't understand what I was seeing. So when I then spoke to Artur, he then explained to me that many of the headstones that once stood in the Brest-Litovsk Jewish cemetery had been found over several years. People were starting to return them, and they were being stored under the arches of a heritage building, not a Jewish heritage building, but a Belarusian heritage building called the Brest Fortress, which is here. It's a huge complex. And when I then went there in 2014, and this is the image of that headstone that Artur had originally sent me. And as you can see, it was very upsetting. A lot of rubbish was there. It's a sort of a car parking area in front of it, easy for people to climb all over, and just dumped and forgotten. And I said to Artur, we need to do something about this. And we didn't know what the something was, but we just knew something had to be done. These are some more of the images, and as you can see here, this is the arches of the Brest Fortress, sort of an open air area that the Brest municipality was giving to be able to, for the local community to store these headstones, and more headstones were coming all the time. But they were in real disarray, as you can see here. They were not, there was no care in the way that they were just being added to the pile. Which was extremely concerning. And these were photographs that we took when we were there in 2014. As you can see, it's just a big pile up of headstones and pieces of headstones. And while we were there, we got a call from a local construction company who said that they were digging the foundations for a new supermarket. And as they were clearing the land, they were finding headstones. And this was actually close to where the Felix Warburg colony houses were. Part of them were being demolished for this supermarket. And so we took these photographs. It was a huge site, and there were headstones all over the site. So again, we organized to have those collected and added to where the others were. So in 2014, we decided to raise money for a fence. Which we did, because we at least felt that they were protected. They were to stop people from getting to them, climbing on them, throwing rubbish on them. And we asked we worked with the local community to have them sorted out, piled up, and given some degree of respect, which, as you can see, happened. Those headstones we were able to see the extent of what we had there, and how many pieces were large formed pieces, how many were just tiny pieces. It really gave us some sense of the scale of this. As you can see here, these are some of our images taken as they were being sorted out. And here you can see the fence. So now it wasn't so easy for people to climb all over them. And as you can see, this headstone here at the very bottom on the right, we found on one of the visits when we were there in 2016, somebody called us. He said, I think I found a Jewish headstone in my garden. We went there. We had to arrange for a van to collect it because it was a very big one, and it took 4 men to carry it. And we actually have a film of that. And then within a matter of months, more had been found, and here you can see them piled up, so that they were being found a lot and over all the time. So more pictures of the headstones as they were in a slightly more orderly fashion. This is the site that is also cemetery land, but it is beyond the fence of the sports ground. This area is just shrubland, but it is also cemetery, and it is an area that we thought would be a perfect site to install a memorial. It was a dream. We knew we wanted to do this, and we talked about it a lot and decided that this was something we needed to work towards. Here you can see a member of the Brest community standing at that site. And as you can see, there are still some headstones that appear at the actual site of the cemetery. And sometimes people call to say, we've found a whole load of pieces which we believe are from headstones. As you can see here on this corner, this was a whole lot of pieces that had once been headstones. And again, we collect them. And then there was a disappearance. At the end of 2019, I got a call from Artur who said, all of the headstones have disappeared. And I said, how can they've disappeared? And he said, I don't know, but they're not there. They're no longer under the arches of the Brest fortress. And I said, Artur, you need to find them. So he did an incredible job of tracking down where they had gone to. We were very worried they'd been removed and they were gone forever. The local municipality had been asking for the headstones to be moved by some certain person who had the responsibility of the headstones and had been asking her to move them. And she was ignoring that. She didn't have anywhere to put them. And so they came in and with trucks and removed them. And they removed them to here. And I said to Artur, I want to come and see them. And I did. I went out just before the pandemic in 2020. And I'm going to now hand over to Artur, who is going to tell you the next part of the story.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Mysterious disappearance. It wasn't a magic. It was just a restoration of the place where the headstones were kept at that time, which Deborah mentioned was a Brest fortress. And because this is a huge complex and it's a heritage site for Belarus, that's where during the Second World War, that's when the Nazis invaded Belarus, and that was sort of the front line at that time. And that's where the big fight took place. And the local authorities, the municipality decided to do the restoration, and they've been asking sort of people responsible for it to remove the headstones to the safe place. And unfortunately, at that time, there was no cooperation between that person and the municipality. So they had to, in order to save the headstones, they took the initiative to remove the headstones into a different place, which, I mean, we can imagine moving an enormously heavy, you know, 2,000 headstones takes quite an effort and quite a big job. And it was removed into the storage. I mean, obviously, they were not thinking of moving it into the like a nice sort of a luxury warehouse. Of course, it was moved to something that actually probably was available at that time and empty at that time, which was at the suburb of Brest. And I had a phone call because at that time we kind of slowed down our sort of activity, and there was sort of a conversation what to do next. And had a phone call from the local municipality, a vice mayor of Brest, and say, does the Together Plan want to sort of continue sort of working on the headstones and working on the project? And then I contacted Deborah and said, what do we do? I mean, do we like sort of move in, and do we continue the action? And then that was the point when Deborah came to see the condition of the headstones. And I went there as well. And we, in January 2020, it's right before the COVID hit the world, we found the headstones in a condition and a shape that you're seeing. Of course, during the removal of the headstones, a lot of them were damaged. A lot of them were kind of we lost the track of something that we had kept in order, that we tried to keep in order, and that's basically the condition we found them in, and that's something that we were a bit of a shock, I have to say, to find. And we took a decision that we have to deal with that. We can't just leave those headstones, that heritage and that memory and that past to just be thrown to some warehouse and disappear forever. And we decided that we will, I see Deborah standing there. I mean, she isn't happy, she doesn't, to see all that. But further on, more happier moments will come. And when we decided, we finally decided to deal with that, we found support from several people, and we found support from the Illuminate Foundation from America. And here we, a team of our staff, Deborah together with me, and Elena, who made the film, which you will see shortly. We went to Brest municipality and started the conversation on having our official relationship and signing an agreement with the Brest authority for the project, for us to build the lapidarium, which we will tell you more about further into our presentation. We also got into, we started to publicize the topic. We started to tell the world about the project, about the stones, about the cemetery and the heritage. And we, this project made it to the news, to the Times. Here you can see the rabbi of Brest standing there and looking and reading those headstones. We further on gathered a team of volunteers to basically to work with the stones and to be able to sort the stones. And we made a film. We made a film just before our project started, just before we started working with the stones and cleaning them and sorting them and getting all the stones and pieces together. It was so difficult, which you will see further on. The work was so tremendously difficult after the removal from one place to another, because some of the headstones, we had to put the pieces together to make it the whole stone, to take a photo and to be able to catalog those headstones. So this is the film. This is the original pre-project film that we have made in Brest, which I'm welcome to view.
Just to say that there is an image at the end of this film that was a design of a memorial, just as a holding design. It's not the design that is actually going to be happening, but so just bear that in mind when you see this film. But this was the film that we made in 2020.
Это женщина, ее звали Хая. Это мужчина, его звали Реувен Дов, его отец Хаим.
Кладбище было в самом большом городе Бресте. Оно начиналось вот от той улочки, она шла эллипсом, до улицы, которая вот за тем домом с зеленой крышей. Она и сейчас есть. И вот эта улица за забором. Здесь находился после окончания Второй мировой войны лагерь немецких военнопленных. И именно Мацеевы с кладбища были вымощены улица и площадка, где находился этот лагерь. Там они потом были найдены и закопаны прямо при устройстве улицы, вот этой проезжей части ее. И там они были найдены и перевезены в крепость, где и хранились.
Вот эти памятники, которые вот мы сейчас видим, вот это на самом деле то, что осталось от этих людей, которые были похоронены там на кладбище. Там похоронены несколько десятков тысяч человек, которые мы не знаем вообще, кто они. У нас нету списка, мы вообще ничего не знаем. Единственный память, которая осталась от них, это само кладбище и вот эти памятники, которые здесь находятся. Через это мы можем делать для них что-то. Без этого, к сожалению, и неизвестно, что это вообще кладбище и что там кто-то вообще похоронен. Поэтому надо обязательно их вернуть на место вот кладбища. Семья Соловейчик, они были в городе Брест где-то приблизительно 60 лет. Вот эта семья очень известная в том плане талмудический, учение Тора. Во всех ешивах на сегодняшний день учится их литература, их книги. И вот если вы скажете в Израиле Бриск, и Раб Хаим Соловейчик, Раб Йосеф Дов Соловейчик, и все знают об этой раввине.
Эти памятники использовались на то, чтобы мастить улицы, дворы. И во многих местах, даже в центре города, лежали эти плиты в качестве тротуара. Для меня важно, чтобы было куда прийти, и важно найти то место, где лежат мои близкие, мои родные. К сожалению, это место представляет собой пустырь, поэтому строительство лапидария, я думаю, что это очень важная вещь. И это необходимо совершенно для людей, для памяти о них.
The community here was destroyed in the Second World War. They were recently discovered over the last 15 to 20 years, and they're now in a storage space, and there is hope that we can somehow create a memorial here, which will give voice not only to that lost community, but to the community that is here today.
There is no future without the past, and without the past we can't build a better community. It's important not just for the present generations, it's important to preserve for the future generations, because this is our heritage and this is our story. We don't realize it now, but the future generations will be grateful for keeping this history alive.
На территории бывшего кладбища, где после войны был сделан стадион, предполагается разместить зеленую зону, сквер, такую мемориальную памятную зону, где будет размещаться сам лапидарий, то есть некая стена, может быть, в виде круга, полукруга, значит, где будет экспозиция мацев. И, значит, на оси вот этого лапидария планируется сделать огель, значит, некую капличку такую, значит, где можно даже будет оставлять записки, либо где будет информация о тех знаменитых евреев, которые были похоронены на этом кладбище.
So then we had an agreement that we formed with the local authorities, and we partnered with Stephen Greinberg and the Illuminate Foundation. So this happened in 2021. Just going back to the Greinberg pharmacy that I showed you, where Menachem Begin was standing with Jabotinsky behind the pharmacy, and the pharmacist and her husband Solomon and their son Jack were among the very handful of people who survived. They say between 11 and 19 Jews survived from Brest, and they were among those people. And it was the son of Jack, Stephen, who we connected to in the States, who then said he would come on board and help us with this project. And he lives in America. And there you are. There's the pharmacy to bring it full circle. So Artur, do you want to just talk us through this bit?
Well, basically, this film that you've seen and the agreement, at the same time, we've signed an agreement with the local municipality. We signed an agreement, a partnership agreement, basically, of building a lapidarium, and they took their initiative. They're playing their part, we're doing our part. That was the time when we kicked off our main phase, as you would say, of the project, when we had to roll up our sleeves and start working on sorting, cleaning, cataloging the headstones. It was an enormously difficult job because you saw how many stones were there and how disordered they were, and it was very difficult sort of by hands to even carry those stones. Some of them were like 100, 150 kilograms. And with a team of volunteers, we've spent over a week in Brest. It was extremely hot, I have to say. It was around 35 degrees. But we were working on the stones. We were putting the pieces together. We were doing the photography. We were trying to find all of the pieces and all of the headstones that could be identified with any writing on it, because we believe that each piece, each stone is alive, is a heritage and a history of the person who was buried in the cemetery. So it was, for us, it was very important to go through all of the little pieces, which were probably around 3,000 of them. We even made it to the news, to the Republican national news, and there is a short film where you can see us doing that sorting and working this warehouse. It's a main Republican channel, and we've got some translation here. It's a short video which I welcome you to see.
Спустя 80 лет забвения в Бресте началось строительство лапидария. Экспозиция старинной письменности на камне появится на месте старинного еврейского кладбища, снесенного в начале Великой Отечественной войны.
נפטר י"ב מנחם אב, תר"ש ל"ד, לפרט קטן, תהיה נפשו צרורה בצרור החיים.
Специалисты изучают, документируют и фотографируют надгробия, около 1000 мацев, предположительно с одного некрополя. В начале войны, когда Брест был оккупирован, фашисты расправлялись не только с евреями, но и с их памятью. Самое старое и большое кладбище в городе разграблено, а потом вовсе стерто с лица земли. Надмогильные плиты использовали для мощения улиц. Спустя много лет их обнаружили и передали представителям общины. С инициативой вернуть мацевы на место и построить мемориал выступила общественность и потомки евреев Бреста.
Уничтожение кладбищ, в том числе нацистами во время Холокоста, это было обычной тематикой. И, к сожалению, долгие годы мы не смогли восстановить ту справедливость и вернуть камни, и вернуть кладбище в какой-то первозданный вид. Поэтому на сегодняшний день есть решение таких проблем. Это возможность строительства мемориала, который будет посвящен не только людям, которые похоронены на этом кладбище, но и всему наследию нашей страны, потому что еврейское наследие Беларуси – это часть наследия всей Беларуси.
Это будет первый лапидарий в стране. Проект в 3 этапа. После изучения надписи займутся дизайном будущего комплекса. Концепцию согласуют с еврейской общиной и городскими властями. Чтобы завершить работы, специалистам понадобится около 3 лет.
So we did create the online catalogue between 2021 and 2022, as I said, with grateful thanks to Stephen Greinberg and the Illuminate Foundation. And here, as you can see, this is the team photographing every single piece. And the actual catalogue looks like this, and we will happily share that with people. As you can see here, there are 1,249 entries. There are over 25 pages. At the end of each page, there is a thumbnail, and when clicked, it opens up to the photograph that was taken. That was a huge amount of work, and we were able to work with the Foundation for Documentation of Jewish Cemeteries in Poland, who are currently hosting this catalogue for us, and they did the translation work for us, and they were fantastic to work with. So the site and the design. where are we going with this? So this is an aerial shot of the sports complex, and at the far end here is the area that is the piece of land that is earmarked for the memorial. And here is an aerial shot taken on Google Maps. Again, here the running track, and this is the area beyond the wall of the fence of the sports stadium. And this is what the memorial will look like. It's been designed by Brad Goldberg, who is an artist and a designer in Dallas. And this will be a mound. We can't build down, obviously, because this is a cemetery, so you can't disturb the land. And there are two walls that are an embrace of these headstones, and the smaller pieces, the very small pieces that aren't big enough to sit in the central mound, will be incorporated into the walls that are the embrace. So here you can see the embrace of the walls, and here there are going to be benches in the walls where people can come and sit for quiet contemplation, introspection, and it will be a park area where there will be many trees around it. There's been a lot of work that's gone on across internationally between Belarus, the UK, and America, with the team that are working on this to bring it to this point. So how does this memorial play a pivotal role in Jewish history? Well, it will put the cemetery back on the map. It will give the functioning community who are there in Brest today a place to commemorate those who have gone before them. It will give Jews from Brest living in the diaspora a place to visit in memory of their ancestors. It will play a major part on the heritage route that we're working on to tell the story of the Jews from Brest. And it restores history and memory. And it plays a vital role in Holocaust education, helping to understand the hidden history of the suffering of the Russian, Soviet, East European Jews. It's very much hidden history with the suppression of the Holocaust in the Soviet Union, the legacy of that being that, as I said before, there is no official Holocaust education in Belarus, and this story is little known. So it will play a very key role in making this much more known, just not only to the Belarus community, but to the wider world community. How will it support the functioning Jewish community in Brest? Well, let's go back to the Hektesh synagogue. Here you can see the original building. This is the building that they have reclaimed and are now existing in. It's now their community space. And it will give the community a place to commemorate those who went before them, as you heard in the film. It will be restorative, it will put them on the map, and it will connect them to the wider world. This was pictures of their Purim in the old space where they used to occupy. This is the rabbi that you saw in the film, and this was us making the film, and that was the interview that took place in the Hektesh synagogue. So the road so far and the road ahead. Well, it's been, this project has been in the press, in all of these media outlets have covered the story. All of that is available on our website, and we're very happy to send you the link to those articles. So this is where we've gone. This is what we've done. This is what we've achieved. We signed an exclusive agreement to design and build a memorial in 2021 with a deadline of completion by the end of 2024. We have sorted the headstones that was completed, as Artur said, in 2021. We photographed them in 2021. We had all of the headstones where we could, everything we could translated, and the catalogue was created in 2022. The design of the memorial was commissioned and completed in 2023. The design of the memorial was approved by the Brest authorities in 2023, and the building application was submitted at the end of 2023. Almost 40% of the funds have been raised so far, and this is where we're at. So we are now running our campaign to locate people with ancestral connection to Brest, which is ongoing, and which is a reason why many of you are here with us today. We are now launching the fundraising campaign to raise the rest of the funds, and the construction commencement is planned for the beginning of it is spring 2024. So what can you do to help? Well, we are inviting everybody to make a donation because now is the time to raise the money to make this a reality. We are inviting you to book in and have a conversation with us so that we can get to know you better and you can get to know more about the project and ask your individual questions. And you can, we will be sending you out some information about how you can do that. We would love to invite you to become part of our crowdfunding campaign because between all of us, we can raise this money. You can host an event about the project and we can provide details of how to do that. You can subscribe to receive the campaign updates when the construction starts so that you can receive information about how things progress and come on the journey. We're inviting you to join us and come on the journey so that we can do this together to complete this project. And I'd just like to show you our campaign film, which you can see here, and it's also on our website.
"80 years after the destruction of the Brest-Litovsk Jewish cemetery, a stunning memorial is coming to life.
Евреи всегда чтили память предков. И когда нет кладбища, мы решили, что должен быть хотя бы памятный знак или памятное место, которое бы рассказывало потомкам нашим о том, что там лежат их предки, которые жили, работали, трудились и молились в этом городе.
Between 1941 and 1945, as the Jews confronted their tragic destiny, their hallowed cemetery was systematically dismantled, and every vestige of Jewish existence was mercilessly erased. Years after the war, a local Brest artist named Vladimir Gubenko meticulously documented the horrifying destruction through the first-hand accounts and eyewitness testimonies, as Jews were being forcibly gathered and taken to pre-dug pits to be executed by gunfire. The Germans worked diligently clearing the Jewish cemetery to install sound detectors as part of their efforts to defend against Soviet air raids. In 1945, gravestones were forcibly removed from the Jewish cemetery and repurposed as paving material to address sanitary and hygiene concerns at the German prisoner of war camp on Minskaya Street. By 1946, the Jewish cemetery had transformed so dramatically that it had become utterly unrecognizable.
У нас еврейское кладбище, Брестское кладбище, похоронены более 50 тысяч евреев. Там похоронены из раввины Соловейчики и еще раввины, которые были здесь сотни лет.
Кладбище – это одно из первых мест, которые евреи, ну, как сказать, покупали землю под них. Они приезжали на новое место, они покупали земли для синагоги и для кладбища. Лапидарий – это прежде всего сохранение памяти о тех людях. Это очень важная вещь. Яд Вашем, так и называется, это память, это сохранить имя. У нас сказано, что мертвые уже ничем не могут отблагодарить. Поэтому то, что мы делаем для мертвых, оно бесценно. Я это делаю, потому что это делаю, не рассчитывая на какие-то плюшки и бонусы. Я это делаю бескорыстно.
This memorial will be a testament to Brest's rich Jewish heritage. It will acknowledge and honor the community that was so brutally extinguished and educate visitors about Brest's vibrant Jewish community of the past and the present.
I think that First of all, this is a living memorial. In essence, these stones are coming back home to a place where they've been displaced. And this embrace will contain 600 plus or minus standing headstones on top of a 2-meter high mound that's like a pregnant shape of earth. On top of the embrace walls are many of the fragments, many of the almost 3,000 fragments of stone, some that have writing on them, Hebrew, some of them are blank and just broken, but they will be used to construct the top of the wall where people can run their hands and feel these stones as they're walking past. There's a Hebrew phrase called tikkun olam, which means in today's world, the repair of the world. And I would like to suggest that those two, that phraseology would stand to represent that which we are trying to accomplish with this work.
This incredible project is now a reality through the unwavering support and belief of Steven Greinberg and the Illuminate Foundation.
Надо участвовать финансово, это очень большие затраты, суммы, надо помочь. Это еврейская история, это еврейская традиция, это наши предки, и надо делать все возможности, чтобы восстановить это кладбище.
We're well on our way to meeting our fundraising goal, but we can't do it without your support. Together, we will bring these headstones home. Please make your donation today.
And we will happily share that film with everybody. So just to conclude, building a heritage trail where we will be able to signpost Jewish tangible and intangible heritage and significant memorials such as this one will enable Jews and non-Jews in Belarus to engage in dialogue around Belarusian Jewish history. It will enable Belarus to tell its own story. And we believe that that is the route to revival. We'd like to invite you to join the campaign to complete this project and build the Brest-Litovsk Jewish Cemetery Memorial. It's a very exciting year, and I'd like to invite you now to ask us any questions. Thank you. So if you'd like to unmute, if you have a question, please, it might be helpful to raise a hand and do ask us anything you'd like. Stephen, I can see you have a hand up. You need to unmute. Hi, Steve.
Why Brest?
Why Brest? That's a very good question. Artur, where are you?
I'm here. I'm still here.
Would you like to answer that question? I would be happy to say something, but.
Well, I think why Brest? I mean, I think Brest is quite unique in terms of, first of all, the Brest ghetto that was so one of the most sort of interesting stories, where one of the first ghettos on the territory of present Belarus. And as you could see, you saw that Deborah showed you the list that the Germans, they kept a very, very accurate record of the Jews in the ghetto. As they call it, sort of a German order. And there's so many interesting stories. And one of the I'll probably say that the only ghetto on the territory of the Eastern Europe where they had application forms, where they had passports for every Jew living in a ghetto. So this area is quite significant, interesting from the angle of the Holocaust and what happened there. And then going even further back to this history of salvaged family, to the history of the Jews in Brest. And this cemetery, it also has a very interesting story. The old cemetery used to be on the site of the Brest fortress. And back in 1800s, because the whole city was on fire at the site of the Brest fortress, and the city was being restored, the Jews had been ordered to remove the cemetery, and they were giving a land at the present cemetery that we're talking about. And it was very interesting. The whole Jewish community went back to the cemetery. They digged out the bones in a special sort of fabric bags, and they have reburied a large amount of the bones on the new cemetery. So this cemetery is quite significant. And then again, throughout the Belarus, you can find a lot of sort of headstones that were sort of taken from the cemetery and being used for a different reason. But as such a significant amount of the headstones from the largest cemetery that was taken around the city and that was used for abnormal, I would say, purposes on the pavement, on the basement of the houses, on constructing of the houses and paving the streets. It has a feeling that the justice has to prevail, and we have to bring them all back to the cemetery and kind of restart the Jewish history, restart the sort of the history of the Jews of the region, on putting those stones back to the place where they belong. So that's more about why Brest.
So I think my question revolves around the fact, well, what about Minsk? What about all the other centres, and I can't name them, and you would probably know much better than me, all the other centres of high Jewish population? What about what happened to their cemeteries? And that's why I said why Brest.
Yeah, it's a very good question. First of all, there is a lot of old Jewish cemeteries that still exist on the territory of smaller towns or bigger towns. They are more or less preserved. There are some of them are taken care of, some of them are not taken care of, but still there. The headstones are not taken, the cemeteries are not destroyed. Yes, in big towns, for example, in Grodno, there is a stadium stands over old Jewish cemetery, but there's no remaining. So we can't do anything but just put a small monument there in commemorating the cemetery. In Minsk, there is a cemetery that was destroyed. There is some headstones left, which we're also thinking of building a small lapidary because there's only like 30 plus headstones survived. And such a large amount of the headstones that have survived by today is only in Brest. And that's why it's Brest, because it's quite significant and it's huge. And we can't just allow thousands of headstones wander around the city from one place.
I just want to make a couple of observations, actually, because there's discrepancies in what's been said this evening on the numbers. It may be a detail, but I think it's an important detail. So in one text, in 1923, there were 60,000 Jews in Brest, 60% of the whole population. And in another text, I didn't manage to write it down in time, there was another figure of the number of Jews in Brest at that time. And also, it was said 30,000 Jews were buried in the cemetery. And the last thing the rabbi said was there were 60,000 Jews, I think he said, that were buried in the cemetery. So there's a disconnect in the figures.
So I'll check that and I'll clarify it. But I think that's at different times, at different periods in time.
No, it was relevant to the same period of time in relation to the discrepancy on the numbers. If you go through it,
I'll clarify it and I'll let everybody know.
Yes, you do have in the film. There's a different. I mean, there's always a difference between the official numbers and non-official numbers, and this is happens to the lack of the documentation and the lack of sort of the historical proofs and the facts in documents. How many Jews were killed at this place? How many Jews lived? Because as you know, the Jews were sort of registering in one place and living in a completely different place. Now, in official videos, which you have seen 26,000 of Jews in the film, means we have a proof of this number, and this according to the census of that period of time. Now, we know from the historians, from the stories, from different type of the documents, that there were more Jews living in the town, but we can't officially prove it. So this is like a historical reference. The same thing with the cemetery. The rabbi says 50,000. We know that there has been something from 35,000 to 50,000. Again, it's all destroyed. There is no, based on what we know, is in the archive, what was found, we know that there is around like a 32,000. But again, from the historical point of view, and because Brest was right at the border and going back and forth to the Great Lithuanian Kingdom, to Russia, to Poland, it's been always changing. So to call an exact numbers is quite difficult. And at that time, there was no such an order as the Germans had, like 60,138 Jew in the ghetto. And all of them have the passports.
So can I just sort of say that this is something we can continue to discuss at great length, but I think we've got other hands up. So if I can just we can come back to it, and if anybody wants to stay on and talk about it, that's absolutely fine. So we've got Lee put his hand up first. So if we can go to Lee and then Ruth, and then I can see we've got two other hands up at the moment. So Lee Dworkin, hello Lee, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. My question is, can you say anything about the security that we put in place to protect the lapidarium once built, and or if you think it's such a thing would be necessary?
That's a good question.
I'm just thinking of London-based cemeteries that are behind locked gates. You know, they're quite hard to get to, but it would be a great shame once you've built the lapidarium if it were to get attacked in any way by anti-Semites.
Yeah, Artur, you can definitely answer that one.
It's going to be a public monument, public memorial complex. This is when I said it's a partnership with the local municipality. We're handing over the memorial after we build it. We're handing over for the maintenance and security to the local municipality and the local government. And obviously there will be cameras installed. There will be sort of police patrols going from time to time in the area, as they usually do in the city. So that will be one of the points of the security as well. And I have to say that, thank God, you know, we haven't got a same amount of anti-Semitic activity as Europe has. Even in the synagogues here, we didn't take an extra security measures. It's all quiet on that front here in Belarus, and I don't think that there will be sort of a significant danger for the memorial. Of course, you can't avoid, and there's been vandalism all around sort of the world. In Belarus, we did have vandalism, but it's going to be lying on the shoulders of the municipality, and I'm pretty sure they won't want anyone, and they will not allow anyone to do that. We're just hoping that that's not going to be. And fencing, I mean, we did have, interestingly enough, you know, we did have a rabbi saying, you know, maybe we should put fence around. Yeah, but that's open, it's a public memorial, it's an open space. We want everybody to visit, and then we don't want to, again, put the Jews into the fenced area, which won't look good. And it's not actual cemetery, it's a memorial.
Thanks, Artur. We've got a question from Ruth Urban.
Thank you. So I want to talk practically about fundraising, and I'm going to actually put my video on. So I'm in the US, and we have kind of a tax situation where you can take a mandatory required distribution on your taxes and donate money to nonprofits. I'm guessing it's probably only nonprofits in the United States. So if I was interested in making a donation and using that through the required minimum distribution, do you have any association with a United States nonprofit?
Yes. So at the beginning, I mentioned Jewish Tapestry Project. So our partner organization is Jewish Tapestry Project. Tomorrow we're going to be, which is a 501c3, and they take donations on our behalf. And they are part of this project, and they are tomorrow morning we're going to be sending out this recording with an email with all the links for the donations to the UK charity or to the 501c3 Jewish Tapestry Project. So all of that information is going to be sent to you.
Okay, thank you. And I want to thank you for what all you have done. This is an ambitious undertaking, very challenging and frustrating. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Well, thank you for being here. You know, we can't do the next bit without all of you. So this is a real together plan as far as we're concerned. And we've got one of our volunteers who's actually on here, Sam Worth, who's done a huge amount of work for us, reaching out to find many of you through the Jewish Gen forums. And, you know, and we would like you to help continue to spread that word. So the more of you who talk about it, there are more people who have ancestry and connections to Belarus and to Brest. So if we all work on this together, we know we can get it over the line. And it's nothing like this has ever been done in Belarus. And as you can see, it's been over a 10-year journey for Artur and I, and it has been incredibly frustrating at times, but it's incredibly important. And particularly with what's going on right now in the world, this is the moment to be talking about this. There is a huge piece missing in terms of talking about the suffering of the Jews of the Soviet Union and Russia and Tsarist Russia, and we need to bring it to the forefront of people need to know about this. Thank you. Donald Smith had a hand up. Thank you. Sorry to keep you waiting.
No problem. Thank you. I was just wondering, for the area where the memorial is going to be built and the surrounding sports stadium, have you been able to use ground penetrating radar to determine if there are any headstones that might still be buried under the ground?
We haven't, unfortunately. It's not something that we've been able to find the funding for, or to. It's not to say that we, wouldn't. It's all about fundraising. I mean, to get to this point has been a lot of work, and a lot of people have given their sort of time and energy to it to bring it to this point. Everything is possible with the right amount of support, and I have no doubt that going into the future, more headstones are going to be found, more information is going to come to us as this develops. I don't think it's going to stop with the memorial. There's a lot of work that will happen and will come to light as we go forward into the future. But up to this point, no, we haven't.
All right, thank you.
Margaret.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Deborah and Artur, for doing this. Artur, you mentioned that some of the matzevot were used as basement flooring and perhaps the construction of homes and buildings. Is there a list of such locations, and is there a plan to minimally photograph and catalog the matzevot? Because of course we're not going to deconstruct these buildings.
Well, the majority of what has been used for the basement of the private houses we have already found, because people are getting in touch, and we have moved. In the past, there was one house, and just recently we have moved more stones from another house that people were renovating. I mean, I can't vouch if there are any other sort of houses standing there like that, but those matzevot would, because when we were taking the matzevot from the recent house, they were all broken into pieces, because what they've done in the past, they would break the stones and they would cement it within the basement in order to make the basement stronger. So even if there's any find of those stones, they would be just the pieces, unidentified pieces, so we wouldn't be able to identify them. So I think that, I mean, of course, I mean, if in the future we're still leaving the ground for the future, if we're going to be collecting the new found headstones around the city and around the area, obviously we will bring them to the site and we'll make sure that they will be implemented into the current memorial. But I don't think that there would be, because the majority of the housing around the area was already rebuilt and restored. So the majority of the headstones had been found. And as Deborah mentioned, the stadium that stands on the cemetery, God knows what's under that land and what we can find, but that's the future. I mean, I think we need to do step by step. We need to complete this project and then move to another phase of thinking about the other territory, because it's a huge territory. There's been conversation about bringing the radar and trying to find some of the bones. There's somewhere there is a salvaged grave as well, so we don't know what it is. We need a big scanner. We need to find that, and it's a lot of archaeological work. So that's the next possible phase of the project, which will only be possible if we complete the first phase and the lapidarium itself.
Thank you. Alicia Gillespie.
Thanks so much for this. This is really fantastic, and I commend you for what you're doing. It's really wonderful and inspiring. I had a question sort of along similar lines, with people asking if the project will expand as more stones come to light. But I'm curious whether you would consider at all expanding it to nearby areas outside of Brest. And the reason I'm asking that is because I have ancestors from Kobrin, and I was there in 2001. And I know there used to be 2 Jewish cemeteries there. One was, my understanding, completely destroyed. But the second one, kind of very similar story to the one you just told, is located where now there's some type of, or at least in 2001, when I was there 20 years ago, there was a helicopter landing field there, and it was kind of just a trash dump for the locals. But there were still fragments of stones that I could see. I photographed some of them. And there were also fragments, presumably, of human remains that were sticking out of the ground. So I just wonder if that's a site. I don't know what's happened in the last 20 years, but I wonder if that's a site you've looked at all, and whether there's any thought of incorporating that into the Brest project since it's so close by. So thanks again.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Artur, do you want to answer that?
Look, if it would be me, I would sort of implement all of the cemeteries around the country into the project. I think that the country and the people and the community that respects itself should be taking care of their past and making it respectful. It's always difficult because of the financial issues, and because of the community is no longer in place. So there's some communities that there are no Jews anymore, but there are non-Jewish people who are helping around the cemeteries, people who take care of the cemeteries, look after them, open the museums. It's another part of what we do is a heritage trail, and it's something that we investigate all around the country. But I think each place, each shtetl, I would say, should be looked at separately, and it's a unique place. And I think if there are stones sort of laying around and possibility of having the remaining somewhere, I think it should ring the alarm bells, and we should find a way to go there and to try to at least put those headstones to rest, if not just completely. I mean, it's like in Nesvich, what we've done is there was a part of the park that used to be cemetery, and there was some findings of the headstones which people would bring and just throw it into the park, and we lay down something around 25 headstones there, and it wasn't enough to build the lapidarium, wasn't enough to sort of reconstruct the area, and we didn't have any funding. So I went there to the mayor of Nesvich and I said, look, we have to do something with that, and together we worked. So they provided us with the tools, with the people, with the machines, and we took all of those headstones and brought them to the local cemetery where some of the Jewish graves are, and we just laid them there for the security reason, and for the future, if there is a decision to do something, or even if there's a decision to build a small memorial, at least they are kept with the dignity and with the respect somewhere at the place where there's other headstones are. So I think number one is not allowed to them to be thrown around the area or just lay in the ditches or be broken. I think number one is to take care of them and bring them and warehouse them somewhere. And then the next phase is to decide, what do we do with it? Whether we just keep them and make sure that they're there in the right place, or there's some people who come from the area, or we can find the support from anywhere and just mark the place, either build a small lapidarium, a small wall, a small memorial, and put them back to rest and make it with the dignity and respect. So I think that's something that has been always in our thoughts, and obviously we will try to do that in the future as part of the project.
Thanks. Just really quickly, I wonder if you have any update on what the conditions are there in Kobrin, if you know.
Truly, I don't know. I haven't been recently to Kobrin. It's been a long time ago. There's been the building of a synagogue, which also has been kind of falling apart, and now it's belongs to municipality, and they don't know what actually to do with that. And I don't know the condition of the cemetery, but I will. If you email us, I'll put it on my plan. And obviously, when I go to Brest, I'm happy to jump to Kobrin, look at the cemetery, and investigate what's the condition then, and I'll email you with pleasure.
Wonderful, thank you.
Just to say, before we go to our next question, is that part of the work that we're doing with the building of the Jewish Cultural Heritage Route is to map these places and to let people know the condition of the cemeteries, whether they still exist. And we're also looking to connect to people such as yourselves who can tell us personal stories of your own history and connection to the cemetery, or to the people, or to your ancestors' stories, because that tells the world, why you don't live in the, why people escaped, why they left, and that's all information that we're looking to connect to find. So we have a couple more hands up. I think Lee has his hand up again. I think is it, and Susan Tenenbaum. If I can go to Susan first, and then I'll come to you, Lee, again. Oh, you're on mute. Susan, you're on mute.
Alyssa really asked my question, because I too, my family comes from just east of Brest-Litovsk, and the major part of my research has been in Kobrin. So I'm interested in that. I'm wondering at some point, when you have a trail, how will we access the trail? Are you looking to move this into the tourist industry and make that trail available for specialized tours? Or is that something that you're going to publish and let people use?
Okay, so it's a really good question. So the long-term vision for the heritage route is, and that is a whole other fundraising campaign, is to raise sufficient money to be able to create a portal. It'll be a digital portal with an interactive map, and everything will be pin dropped on that map. So every heritage site, the living communities, where there are massacre sites, anything to do with the history of the Jews of Belarus today, present, contemporary, or past, will be put into that map. We will also have access to personal stories, information, and that is the goal. So that, and yes, the sustainable development element of it is that the local Jewish communities who have been involved in our projects and who are working on the audio tours will be able to be found, but they will then be able to take people around Kobrin, around Mogilev, around Minsk, and that's the sustainable development. So yes, it has a tourism element to it, but it has a sustainable development element to it, so that the communities can make some money on it and be found, and it connects everybody, hence the Together plan. Hopefully that helps. It's a work in progress. There's a lot going on in the background. Lee, coming back to you.
I was just wondering if there'd been any thought about trying to get hold of the information from the tombstones that you haven't managed to access or from the Brest Cemetery, and perhaps at the ones that have been destroyed beyond recognition. I was at a conference in Warsaw in 2018, and they managed to find in the Polish archives planning permission records for tombstones. And so they actually managed to get hold of images of the tombstones from the archives. Now, this wasn't across all of Poland. I don't know what area was covered, but it was for Łódź, you know, which has a fairly big, impressive cemetery. And ironically, most of them seems to have survived, unlike my parts of Poland, for example. But I was just thinking that, you know, given that Brest was part of Poland, could there be either an archive hidden away in Poland somewhere that has this information, or you have great contacts with the archivist who I saw a couple of times on the films, you know, either in Brest or in Minsk. And, you know, it could be a bit of a gold mine if you find a huge tome of these planning permission records, because as soon as you find out who was, you know, the complete list of who's in the cemetery, you have a new source of donors, all of the descendants of those people.
So Artur, do you want to say something here, or do you want me to?
We are doing this work, and we didn't manage to find the planning permission for Brest yet. Possibly it's a good tip from you that we can look into the Polish archives and see if there's anything on Brisk. But what we're doing is we are in archives, we're searching for the death records. And those death records for Brest will allow us to know who is buried at the cemetery, and we're creating this list of the names. In addition to the headstones we found, we're also creating a list of the people who are buried at the cemetery, and hopefully by the summer we'll get through the archive and we'll be able to put out and know those records, and we'll be able to have more names beyond the headstones that we have already found and have cataloged.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I realize we've been on a very long period of time. What I would say is that tomorrow there will be an email sent to you with various with the link to this recording and with some more information, and we would like to be very much in touch with you. As I said in the talk, we would really be grateful if you reach out to us and to organize a conversation with us, because we want to get to know you, and we will be sharing more information with the campaign pretty shortly, but we're now moving, as I said, into a very exciting new phase where we're going to be collectively working together on a very exciting crowdfunding campaign, and we'd like to invite you all to be part of that, because it will be exciting, and we can collectively, I know that we can collectively bring this memorial to home to rest in its rightful place back on the territory of the cemetery. So without further ado, I think I'll let you all go.
There's one question.
There's one more question. Oh, sorry, I missed that. Who's the question from?
From Helen. Helen's
Helen.
Yeah, hi. I just turned my video on. I had no idea how to ask the question. Thank you very much for this. It's a very moving and special and exciting project. Obviously, all of us have roots, ancestors in that town of Brest, and I'm very interested in it. I did notice everything was really wonderful, but I would like to have a little more information. If you're asking for donations, I really am unaware how these organizations function, how these charities function. How will you be able to furnish detailed information, or is there on how much money has been raised, what the costs are so far, what money still is required to be raised, and what is it going to be used for? Who manages the money that you raise, the funds? Where is it kept? Is there a bank account? Things like that. Where's the management of it, and the nitty gritty of it? I'd be interested in that if you are asking for donations. Thank you.
So I'm sharing the screen right now. So there is a page on our website, so you can go onto the Together Plans website, and you can right on the front page you will see the link to the campaign, and you end up on this page, which gives you a lot of information. So here is the film that we showed. And then when it comes down here to the different phases of the project. So as you can see here, we've done the photography, and you can click into the catalogue here, but you can also reach out to us if you can't get to it. The design of the memorial has been commissioned as completed, and here this is where we're at now. So the submission of the planning applications and the surveys and the purchase of the raw materials. This is the phase we're at. This is the progress so far. We've raised $109,700, which is, we've actually raised slightly more, so coming up to 40% now. This is the partners at the bottom. So here is Jewish Tapestry Project 501c3, which is our organization in the States. The funding comes to us, and then we transfer it over to Belarus. Yes, there are proper banking financials in place, proper bank accounts. Artur can tell you a little bit more about the project on sorry, I can come back to you. The management of the funding and the project on his side. So he is the project manager in Belarus, and we have an architect company in Brest that we've contracted, who are overseeing the whole project. And then we have colleagues in America with the designer who is working on an advisory basis. So it is, we have an official agreement between our American organization, who is taking donations in the States, between them and the Together Plan and Dialogue on the ground in Belarus. So there is a clear, all agreements are in place. So Artur, if you want to just explain how things are handled in Belarus.
Well, in Belarus, basically, we have an agreement with the Together Plan and Jewish Tapestry Project in UK and America, and then we are building the budget for the memorial construction, for the services of the architect, for any other expenses, and then we confirm these expenses with the authorities. And then when the money gets transferred, it's even more secured in this country, because if you, for example, if you say that you are donating $100 towards the Brest Memorial, the government controls that all of the $100 have to go towards the memorial and pay for the construction or for the services. Otherwise, it's not allowed to use money for any other purposes. So it's not, I mean, for us, management also is controlled by the governing bodies here, by the local inspections. So all of the money is going to be going into the project, paying for services, paying for construction, for buying material, etc., which we have to apply the budget for those to the local departments, the financial departments, and to the Together Plan as well in the UK as a managing body of the donations that are coming in.
Hopefully that helps.
hopefully more money going to come in, so we'll be able to finish the project. Yes, but in terms of the management, it's quite easy and simple. And you can access. There's a website you can access. You can see how much went in, and we have to report by the end of the every year. We have to report, and we have to show our accounts, and we have to be able to show how much money has been spent. So it's quite transparent and open on this side.
Absolutely, and you know, it's incredibly important for us as part of the work that we as an organisation have been working to achieve over the 10 years that we've been growing as a charity, in order to be seen as transparent, to show people that we take what we do very seriously. When we said we were going to create a catalogue, we created a catalogue, and we have, you know, every intention to work in the country in Belarus to do other projects. So we absolutely have to be 100% transparent and answerable to our donors and answerable to the local community, and it's really important for our reputation. And this is why we want you to be connecting to us and meeting with us, you know, getting to know us, not just on a one Zoom talk. Reach out, have a conversation with us, meet me on Zoom, and get to know us, and you'll see that we really do. We put our money where our mouth is, and we take it seriously, so that we can give you the confidence that if you come on the journey, you're going to see this memorial built, and it will all be 100% kosher. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Good, good, good. Are there any more questions? Have I missed anybody else? I can't see everybody, so.
I think we're good.
I think we're good. Okay, so I'd like to thank everybody for being here, for joining us this evening, this afternoon, this morning, whatever time zone you're on. And we will send you the recording tomorrow. Please tell others, and please connect to us, and please come on the next step of the journey, because this is a very exciting project. And as I said, we can achieve this, we can do this if we all play our part and work on it together. So up until this point, we've been a small group. Now it's time to become a big group and make this a real together plan. Take care, everybody, and thank you very, very much for being here with us. Good night.
Bye.